Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Revolver Fan First podcast, where we go deep with artists on their history as a fan. Today, we have a very special guest, Evergrey's Tom Englund. How are you?
I'm great. How are you? Thanks for having me.
Well, it's great to have you here. So we always ask the first question the same, which is, who was the first artist you put on a pedestal?
Oh, I think that must have been Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. The
Really?
guitar, yeah, which was super weird for me in a sense, but because I also came from like a synth background, listening to Alpha Will and Kraftwerk and bands like that. So, and then my dad showed me this Dire Straits band, and I was sort of mesmerized by his guitar playing, and yeah, and that's how all this started. So yeah,
Awesome.
weird to have a guy with a bandana on his head being a idol, but yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. Was there a particular song that struck a chord with you?
Yeah, I mean, started to, fool around with the guitar and on the Sultans of Swing song, but
Yeah.
I'm still not there yet. So,
Yeah. It's a work in progress, you know.
well, I would say so.
Yeah. Well, tell us about how did you get into synth music before that?
I don't know. I think it's the. I'm a sucker for melody,
Yeah.
and for me back in those days, I guess melody was much more prominent and direct in synth music rather than in metal. In metal it was hidden behind all of these layers that is pretty much what Evergrey does today. So it's yeah. So I think that's what struck me most. But I always been a sucker for like pop songwriting in a sense, and therefore I think that's what the synth bands did.
Well, writing a pop song is a true art form, and the
Very much.
melody, the melody in your music, like that directness, and like I wouldn't say it's buried in layers. I think you're quite at the forefront, basically, and
We
that
got better with it.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But the emotional, yeah, I mean, it's not a surprise that your music's quite emotional. I was feeling delicate today, and I was listening to the new tunes, and I'm like, I feel quite soothed by it, and I don't think I'm alone here. I'd like to know, what was the first music that really moved you, that made you feel emotional? I don't want to say made you cry. Maybe it's up to you where you go with it, but sure, you've been moved too, no doubt.
I went from Dire Straits to Pink Floyd,
Yeah,
and that's what really got me. That's when I really felt, aha, there's some sort of minor chord that strikes a chord within me. That
yeah.
that sort of resonated within me, and
Mm.
I got to really like that sort of moody output in a sense. And
Yeah,
yeah, that was the first, and that was Europe's Carry.
yeah,
Carry, carry. That was.
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God! How well does he sing?
When did you start singing to yourself?
When I started singing,
Yeah, when did you start singing to yourself? Yeah.
oh, to myself, I started very early. I mean, I did very early. I was pretending I was Klaus Meine from Scorpions on the top of my bunk bed, and watching the audience. But I never believed I would become a singer. I never had that in intention at all.
Yeah.
We had a vocalist before me in Evergrey that was supposed to be on the first album, but he quit like 3 weeks before the first album. So then I had to step in and learn to sing, within
Wow.
those weeks, which was a challenge. Yeah, but it also, brought me here. So it's, thanks for leaving.
Yeah, you learned in weeks. Really?
I did actually. Yeah, yeah. But I also wrote all the vocal melodies. So I mean, I guess I
Yeah.
had some sort of knowledge, but I didn't have any technique or anything like
Yeah.
that.
And I guess it just grew over time, really. Yeah.
Yeah, I hope. Hopefully,
Yeah, yeah.
hopefully I haven't gotten worse.
Well, what's that saying? Like, nothing is not made. There's nothing you can't excel more at with like repetition. You can't.
Yeah.
It's just like you start oiling the neural pathways, and that's just the way it is.
And
Uh,
that's just the thing with writing music and singing. I think, for me at least, it's like being, yeah, I have a good grasp of what I'm doing right now, but I'm still feeling like a total beginner. The
Really?
more I learn, the more I learn that I don't know. That I don't have a clue of doing a lot of stuff. So it's
You were-
challenging.
Are you a seeker? Do you seek out new stories and stuff? Do you Are you like a curious human being?
Yes, very much
Yeah.
so. Yeah.
Yeah. What was
And
the
also very ADHD nerdy in that sense, you know. So if I let's find a fishing rod, then I need to find out everything about a fishing rod, and
Yeah.
you know, make sure I buy the most best one, you know.
Yeah. Well, when I mean, you talked about sort of, well, I guess, you know, Pink Floyd putting you on pedestal as well. Did you, what was the first artist you saw yourself in? What were they, people that you feel reflected something of you, or what was there a particular artist that made you feel like I can do that too? They're like me. They're my spirit animal.
No, I never felt that, to be honest. But I think the band Europe made us Swedes, the younger, you know, aspiring hard rock kids, look to them and say, "Oh my, that's possible. It's possible to do that." They're also from Sweden, you know. So, and then of course it didn't happen yet, but at least we, you know, most of us got somewhere, you know. So it's but that, yeah, huge inspiration, amazing band, and also, yeah, made that dream possible in a sense, you know.
Yeah. How did you become a metal kid? How did you, and you know, you've written about being an outsider, obviously the first tune on the last album's about that. What I guess, what kind of drove that feeling, and did it really shift when you found heavy metal? What made you feel included, and that you had,
I mean, bullying in school was the first issue that sort of made me feel like I didn't belong, you know. Also having divorced parents when I was a kid also made me feel like I didn't know where I was, you know. I didn't have a real place where I felt safe, you know. Yeah, I think. Can you repeat the question actually? Because I had a great answer and I forgot it.
What was it?
I'm amazing like that.
Yeah. Look, I'm excited to hear it. I guess what you kind of answered the first one, which is what made you feel like an outsider, but what about heavy metal made you feel included?
Yeah, I think that was just it. It was something that none of the other kids was listening to, basically, and it made me feel like I had to own the world on my own, you know.
Yeah.
And then way later I got to meet, you know, when I was like maybe 16 or 17, then I got to meet like other metalheads and started trading tapes and playing death metal, and you know, and then this world that I thought I was alone in sort of became a big community of like-minded people.
Yeah, that's.
But also, I went to a Def Leppard concert. That was the first thing I saw, and I'm gonna be very honest now. I saw the line of girls to the backstage room, and I said, "That's what I'm gonna do." and that didn't happen yet either.
Yeah. This is a wise move. I see the connection. This is the catalyst.
Yeah.
This is how I need to be on the other side of that door, and thus all will fall.
Yes. Very easy. Very easy mathematics.
Did you dress ridiculous when you were a kid? Metalhead?
I had a ridiculous haircut, like a mullet, you know, because that was the thing back then, I guess. Yeah, but I mean, and at the same time, everybody looked like idiots. So it's like whatever you wore was like, damn, you look cool. And that's so sad because that's not the case today.
Yeah. Really?
I think.
You think they look less ridiculous?
I think I think they have a more, they have a bigger, what do you call it? Like a fashion. Knowledge of fashion today. They look sharper today, but they are also very much. Kids are cool today because there are so many different types of beings you can be today compared to when we were kids, you know.
And I feel like because of the internet, we've got access to so much imagery and history in like the last 50, 60 years of like, you know, well, especially like rock and roll dress. Like,
I mean, absolutely.
It's been an evolution. It's beautiful to watch. And I guess that kind of stuff, I mean, people kind of don their armor and feel, and that's another way to feel a part of the crowd. Like, obviously it's a sea of black, and it's, you know, it's another way you recognize each other, sort of thing. Yeah. But
I love that about music, and I love that about the Evergrey fan base, especially. We are connected more in, you know, sort of the lyric side of Evergrey, I feel sometimes, than the actual music, because people are sort of connected, and I receive so much emails and, you know, letters back in the day, and it's like, it's mind-boggling, really.
That's beautiful. Do you remember something particularly memorable that a fan wrote to you in the early
Yeah,
years?
because it was very recent.
Yeah.
A kid wrote to me that, and it's actually very sad because he wrote to me that, and he was 13 years old, and he is 13 years old, and he wrote to me that you're the reason why I keep on going, because you have showed me sort of that it's possible that where I am now will not stay the way it is
Yeah.
forever,
That's
because
a
that's
pretty
pretty much what I'm. Yeah, it's amazing.
That's
That's
engineering survival. I mean, survival of the human race. Isn't that kind of the point of art? Like you get
That's it. I don't need any. I mean, if he was the only one, that was it for me. I mean, that's the reward I need. So, yeah.
Where do you feel people are there particular songs that you feel like people are most moved by and you get the most like sing along? You must get a pretty hectic sing along going on sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, but I mean, I think the most emotional moments for me are not those parts where people sing along the most. I mean, that's awesome, of course, but it's the one, it's those subtle moments when you see like a couple hugging and kissing each other to music that they have sort of discovered together, a child on his father's shoulders, stuff like that. It moves me because it shows you that our music means something to people, and any idiot can sing along to a song, right? So it's like, no, but I mean, I love that too. But it's like that is common, but those more rare moments are the ones you value the most, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah. And there was something accessible about melody. Like, obviously, a lot of bands from where you're from took a different path, like in the heavy metal world, especially like vocally and stuff. What was your take on that kind of world early on?
I mean, I came from that death metal world and this Gothenburg Sound, and I was a part of it. I had a band of my own doing that thing, but we wanted to bring in, I guess, the melody and the vocals. I guess that was it, So that we want to do the death metal thing, but let's bring in the vocals. Keep it as dark as the death metal thing is, but let's bring in melodic vocals. And that was the actual aim we had. And then, of course, with evolution, it's turned out to be something totally different. But
yeah. No, it's a moving bass. It's interesting. The guy from Meshuggah, Thomas, was talking about how in their band, Jens is more of a percussive element. Like the voice is almost more of a percussive element, and the emotion comes from a different place.
Yeah.
Right.
I believe that too, and I mean, we know the guys in Meshuggah, and I've always been sort of super amazed about Jens in particular. I mean, of course, you're amazed by all of them. How can you not be? But his contribution to the rhythm section, that's very true for me as a music writer. Also, you hear that if he would sing something different, it wouldn't be the same thing. He's really contributing to the rhythm. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, they're all important elements. So you've got a brand new album, which is exciting, a Heartless Portrait. What kind of stories did you want to tell that you haven't told yet on this record?
Easy answer. No stories that I haven't told yet. I'm just babbling about the same old thing. Yeah. No, but I mean, it's about those. I would say that today I write more from a source of energy and strength rather than despair and sadness. Today, the days that I sort of perceived as darkness when I was younger are today something that are days that are a part of me. It's like a attribute that I have. Solitude is one of the things that I appreciate the most today, and I didn't back in the day, of course. So it's just I'm just writing about everything from bullying and how that affects you up until today. Still, that so the heat of the fire and the fear is gone, but the scars are still here.
Yeah,
and it shaped you, and I wouldn't want to be without them today. But I've been through that. But being in those flames it's a totally different story. So I guess I think the portrait is me telling. It's like my diary. And I think that's been the case for all of the albums. It's like a timestamp of the time where I was at that time. It's like
yeah. What kind of skins have you shed since the last album?
What does that mean?
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's a bit esoteric, really.
Yeah.
What do you feel like you've left behind, and as a human, as an artist, is there anything you've kind of left behind, or?
Yeah, but I think in retrospect, that's how I sort of can view that. But usually for this album, I can only judge this album in retrospect in 2 albums time.
Yeah. Yes.
Right, for me right now, this is so. It's that's quite paradoxical too, because now I am in creation wise, I am on the next album already. So
Yeah.
and we just released one album like 11 months ago, and we're releasing this one now. So it's like I just need to keep on moving, and then in retrospect, I can think of, hey, what was I singing about then, really? And
Yeah.
then I can realize that I was telling myself this or that, or you know.
Yeah.
So it's a hard question to answer, to be honest.
It's a well, I guess, I mean, yeah, you can either feel that way, or I guess it's the opposite. You're kind of it's a continuum, and it's consistent, constantly building rather than
Yeah.
way, and becoming more intricate and all that sort of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's also just the thing. I don't want to be sort of caught up in, which is also weird doing interviews, because I don't want to be caught up in what I've already sort of created,
Yeah.
but I have to, and I like to talk about it, but it's like it's also some sort of hindering process in that sort of prevents me from leaving this that I already made and moving on to the next thing. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, I've come to learn to how to live with that, and sort of now I understand that during these hours I'm doing interviews, and then I can turn on my creative mind again, and
Yeah.
which is great now. Back in the day, it was horrible for me to sort of, I don't want to be doing this. I just want to be moving on, and
Right. Yeah. Well, it's a bit of an art form to switch between, you know.
very much so. Yeah,
Yeah.
very much so.
It's
And it's a bit of an art form to talk about yourself all day long and find that to be intriguing in a
yeah.
sense.
Well,
But yeah.
it's
But and at the same time, I love to have a conversation. I love the duality about having some, like your words about and thoughts about my music. I love that, but it's weird too.
it's well, I just like thinking about the people out there, like on YouTube or in their headphones, who are connected to you, and I just try and think about them. I'm an irrelevant thing between that irrelevance cruel. I'm a conduit of information.
Yeah, but that's the most important factor in this conversation, I would say, because if you have a boring conduit, then or somebody that is semi-interested in or didn't do their homework, it's like I am sitting here burping the same answers that I sort of
Yeah.
without any feeling or emotion putting
No,
into it. Yeah.
we need feeling and emotion. It's important. It's an important step as
Yes.
we move forward.
Hell yes,
What?
yeah.
So save us. I noticed in the comments, in the YouTube comments, you're talking about the war. How does it feel, from just out of interest? How do you see it from Sweden? How do you see that conflict and what's going on? And I mean, it feels like something about the bigger state of the world and us as a collective, humankind or whatever. Yeah. How do you see what's going on right now?
I mean, it's horrible. First of all, it's a total rape of democracy and the new world in a sense, and it's something that's gonna put Russia back like 100 years economy-wise, and but mostly how the world view Russians, which is sad because I mean, everybody with some sort of intelligent mind understand that this is not the common people making this war. But I mean, it's like it's the work of a madman. I hope somebody kills him very soon, because that's the only way this will end.
Yeah.
It's as easy as that. Then it's weird for us that the song "Save Us" came out the same day as the war started.
Really?
Yeah, and of course it has a sort of. Then it becomes something different than of course our aim is or was. But it's okay. But it's also what the song is talking about. It's about how the human race sort of lost touch with the real things. If you would ask somebody in Ukraine right now, what are the important things in life, I can sort of guarantee you will get pretty accurate answers.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be about Instagram or TikTok or.
No. Yeah, that,
rock stars for interviews. It's gonna be about having people close to you and the
yeah,
people that are the most important and surviving the day, I would say.
yeah. I mean, I can't. Yeah, dude, I can't imagine what they're going through and
Ah, it's
what you
no
know.
one can.
Yeah, and do you do you have much of a fan base in the Ukraine? Out of interest, have you spent much
I
time
don't. We
there?
have
Or
never played there. We
never
never
played
played
there?
there. No. So
No.
so I guess no.
A mystery. Yeah, yeah. Well, you never know. You never know. Like you never know who's out there experiencing.
Yeah. But I mean, I actually received a couple of messages from Ukraine, and I spoke to a guy on Instagram that was in the bomb shelling of right when he was texting me. He said, hadn't had a chance to look at your video yet," and I told him, "Yeah, of course, it's not important, but maybe you find some strength in it. Go watch it now." Then and now I haven't heard from him so I hope he's okay.
Oh God, yeah,
Yeah,
that's confronting. Especially, I mean, coming from a progressive place as well, like Sweden, like
yeah.
it's a look. Sorry to go off on a random war tangent, but I mean, it's a pretty pressing thing, and I like the way you do talk about bigger picture stuff and then go deep into more personal stuff. Loneliness, solitude. Well, being like the difference between loneliness and being alone. And that's I think and I think that comes with maturity, being comfortable with that you kind of understand that that's your place in the world, that we
Sure.
are. Yeah, I don't know, just reflecting,
Yeah,
random.
absolutely. Yeah, and that's just the thing. And the same thing with, I mean, we have one of the songs is called "Call Out the Dark" on this album, and it's about when I was younger, I was fearing this sense of being alone and being in that, the dark, because I was afraid that the dark would hurt me, or that I would hurt myself when I was lost in the dark, sort of.
Yeah,
And now I'm so comfortable with the dark that I'm not getting, people think that when listening to sort of like music in minor keys and this sort of moody atmospheric vibe is sort of depressing. For me, it's giving me energy. For me, it's like I was talking to a friend of mine, Floyd Jansen from Nightwish.
yeah,
We were talking about this exact fact that we get sort of boosted by
yeah,
not AC/DC, but we get that too. But it's like we also get energy from this, making it, listening to it. It's not to make us depressed. That's not why we listen to it either.
Well, it's like the Carl Jung thing, like the whole shadow self. Like when you kind of connect with that shadow self and maybe connects with the darker side of you, that it naturally, the pendulum kind of swings back and you feel a sense of lightness on some level. Yeah, and you did a song with Floor, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, about mental health.
Two songs, actually.
Yeah, about mental health and stuff. How does
we didn't mean? Yeah, sorry. Go.
No, how does a collaboration like that work, and how? Yeah.
Well, I mean, she's been a fan of Evergrey for a long time, and then she married my best friend, so I figured that would be a that would be a sort of smooth way for me to sort of get in on her fame, But I mean,
Nice tactical.
no, but I mean, it's like we did it because I saw. I mean, all of the guests that we have had on all of our albums, we have had a purpose for them. We had James Labrie from Dream Theater on the last album, so and it's not like it's not like we write songs and let's write a song for this or that person, but sometimes an idea comes along during the writing process, and that was the case for James Labrie, for instance. This sounds like something.
Yeah.
It sounds like James Labrie. Let's call him, And the same with Floor. This sounds like it needs this ballsy, wrong word, I guess. But this super, superwoman power in the song, and that's what it is. Yeah, so it's just great to be able to collaborate with people and sort of stretch your branches into different areas.
Yeah. And I guess that's also one of the benefits of, putting out 12 albums and being around for so long and being established in that world. Who was the first person you were really starstruck by as a music fan?
Bruce Dickinson, I think.
Yeah? Did you, so you met him or?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that was one of those moments. And I still would be, I think.
Yeah. That's nice. Well, maiden are a force of nature, you know.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
absolutely.
yeah. Okay, what are the 5 songs that changed your life?
5 songs that changed my life. Well,
Yeah.
obviously, Sultans of Swing,
Yeah.
Comfortably Numb with Pink Floyd, um, I'm a Viking with Yngwie Malmsteen,
Yeah.
the yeah, final countdown with Europe, and what else? I listened to a lot of death metal back in Tree Fiction with D side maybe,
Yeah.
or something with Morbid Angel.
Yeah. Well, metal's a beautiful thing to be a part of, really.
Very much so.
What would we be surprised that you listen to? Do you ever like mess with like synth bands still, or do you ever need, like, after being immersed in this kind of heavy metal creation mode, do you need something to kind of balance it out that feels different? And
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you're aware, but I have another band called Silent Skies, which is
yeah, of course, yeah,
and in that band we only do this sort of atmospheric piano-based score music in a sense, with vocals.
Yeah.
We just released the second album too, so I would say I get all of those vibes out in that music, and then I also write together with the guy Vikram Shankar, who I write with in Silent Skies. We also write music for video games. Work for an American company called Saber Interactive. So we do these AAA games with writing for. I mean, the last year we've done so many games, it's ridiculous. It's like World War Z and Paris Dakar Rally and Evil Dead the game, and so it's. So doing all of these different things, it sort of keeps me satisfied.
Yeah.
Super grateful to be able to do all of these, and then I do all of these collaborations with fans, and I have another band. I have a Redemption also, for God's sake.
Of course.
And we also made an album last year.
Yeah. So you shouldn't really just talk about Evergrey, really. Like that's not covering all your bases. Like I'm being a bit one-dimensional here. Like this is important. It's good to have a thing. Okay, if you could score any film, what would you? If you could replace the score of any film, is there a particular one that you'd like to play with?
No, but I mean, yeah, sure, any film.
That'd be cool.
But I mean, I would love to have, the Dark Knight. If I would have been able to write that score, because it's perfect for me, or Interstellar. Same guy, I guess. So it's. I mean, that's our next aim to do. Scoring for films or series, maybe Netflix series or whatever. So that's what we're aiming for now. So.
Dark Knight's kind of an interesting one because there's a lot of inherent darkness in that, and solitude, and like that character in that particular world. Like that's one of my. That's got to be. I don't know whether you'd even call it a superhero film, but it is. Like I can't remember which universe it is, and I'm not enough of a nerd. But
no, neither am I. But it's an amazing movie, amazing score. All of it's just 100. And Interstellar for me is like I've watched that movie like. So many times. Yeah. I just love where that brings me,
Yeah. It's good to well, I guess what would you like people to feel? Or is that too direct? Is that too contrived? Like
I think I would like them to feel. I think that's it. If they don't feel, then that's okay too. There's a lot of music in the world, and I don't want to force my music onto people, but it's great when people take the time. I think what I would like and appreciate the most is that people actually make up their mind after listening to Evergrey, because I think that a lot of people have their sort of preconceived mind of about how we sound and what we are, and then they're often very wrong if they didn't. It's like, man, I thought you were like this, or they're like, well. Cool, welcome, and that's why, Evergrey is not a huge band by any means, but we're on the rise still after close to 30 years. We never dipped, and we're, it's like this very slowly, but that means we grow for every album, and quite significantly for the last 4 ones. It's been a big leap up. So for us, it's great to still be doing music that counts, and is
It
it's
does like music that counts. That's I mean that's
it.
kind of the point. How is sort of the world outside of your creative process, like the musical world, how like heavy metal's evolved, even how pop has evolved? Has that played into the way you write, or are you kind of a bit siloed in how you operate? Does that make sense? Yeah.
Yeah, it does. But I think nowadays, I think you're still influenced by what you loved the most back in the day when you became a creative person. I think that will always be with you. It's not like I necessarily listen. I don't listen to new music that much, which is sad because the only time I have to listen to new music is when I'm on tour, and then I love it. We trade. Song. We just put on one song after another on the tour bus. And you get all of these new influences, and you're amazed about how many creative persons there are in the world, and I love creative minds. So but how that's influenced me, I think the everyday life also in sort of very much influences my writing.
Yeah.
So it's not music per se that influences the writing. It's current world status, whatever you want to call it. It's like super boring answer, but more than anything. I write about society, and it's awesome.
Oh, yeah. Well, to be honest, it's a pretty rich vein of content. Let's be real.
For sure.
The world is in a pretty weird place, and just even like just how far we've splintered. And especially with music, and heavy music is just such a vivid place at the moment. Like there's so many different colors and flavors from all over the world, and there's not kind of, and I think like it's beautiful, like things how to sound like a particular city sound, and obviously you hail from a place with a very distinct sound, but it's interesting that has, I guess it has positives and minuses in terms of how it's become a bit universal. And I mean, the element of the monoculture. I don't know.
And I think also that's where internet have had a huge impact on.
Yeah.
You go back to the core of the question.
Yeah.
Being influenced immediately by stuff.
Yeah.
Just by turning on your computer is something that is, of course, I'm wondering what kind of amazing things we will get to see in, like, for the kids that are like 13 today and starting their sort of creative journey, what they will be when they're in their 40s. It's like, I think there's so much awesome stuff, and we're not gonna be able to keep up. That's my worry in life in general. I'm worried that I will die of old age and not been able to write everything that I want to write and do all the things. I mean, like everything, like everybody else. I hope I get to travel the world. I hope I get to do all these things, or whatever you want to do. But for me, it's like, I hope I get to write all the music that I have within me, because, and I guess probably not. So, but it's,
Well, you've definitely created some immortal stuff, like. A lot of people just live it in their heads. Like a lot of people have never actually put pen to paper and have never actually picked up a guitar or done any of this stuff. Like,
but I guess they've done more important stuff,
Yeah. What do you define as important?
I think important is extremely subjective. I mean, you can be working at an NGO, of course. That's super important for everybody that you work for.
Yeah.
But for yourself, I think I'm a sort of a big believer in being an egotistic bastard in that sense, because I think when you're that, and then you're becoming the best person towards your surroundings, if you can manage to be a nice guy at the same time.
So like invest in yourself and put yourself at the center of the world.
Yes. Absolutely.
With what you have.
For me, you're your own god. That's it.
That's a beautiful thing. I think there's a lot of people, a lot of self-torture and sabotage. And I think if we could all find that kind of godlike quality within, we would be a much happier people. What's your...
and just that there's so many people that are against things. I'm against this, I'm against that. Don't be against shit. Be pro other stuff instead. I'm pro this, I'm pro that, I'm pro this, It's easier, and it's more it gives more energy to say that you're working for something than against something, you know.
Yeah. What are you for? What are you the biggest pro like? What are you behind?
Free thinking, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and that's what this album is about. It's about be sure who you are before somebody else tells you who to be. You know, it's and that's, you know, our kids today grow up with, as I said before, TikTok and all of these media, that I use to promote my artistic career as well, which makes it paradoxical. But they are not educated to the point where they have learned to criticize where stuff come from, you know.
Yes.
And that's for us who are parents, that's our sort of biggest job, I think, today, to make sure that, okay, you can watch all of these cool things, but there's also mixed in other stuff with that you know, will affect you. And I want people to think for themselves. That was the answer to the question.
That's the essence of it. Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess that's not like, there isn't much of a bigger issue, because like, it's like what you've seen in the world in the last few years, like this group think kind of 1984 Orwellian mentality of just getting on board without doing that level of thought, like just no think. Like it's mind blowing. Like it's
it was a prophecy, and I mean it's for me, it's kids today won't look to politicians. I mean, they don't vote for their young people today. They don't vote in favor of what the sort of politician has to say. It's how the person is, you know. So you can be a great person, portraying yourself to be somebody really cool, and then, you know, win the votes, right? Because people are short-minded in that sense, so they will only evaluate, okay, now I have 15 seconds to impress me, and that's the same thing. Okay, I will vote for you. Do next thing.
That attention span thing's dangerous.
Yes. Which is why it's lovely with music, because I want it to take time. I want you to be late with coming into music. I don't want you to be stressed. I want you to be sort of sit down and shut up and indulge yourself with you know, world of movie. Don't scroll at your phone watching a movie. Put the phone away, you know.
That kind of attention, I guess it kind of takes you to another place, which is kind of the point, right? Like that's, and you know, fans of progressive music in general they will get on board with a 20-minute song. They will, you know, they'll pick it apart, which is fun, you know. Who do you think are the lyricists and stuff that you think have really done this well? Talk about the bigger world and have kind of affected your worldview on all that kind of stuff.
I mean, of course, Pink Floyd. But I would also say that that's probably the only band that I've been affected by in the lyric sense. Or are there any others? Now, because I mean, of course, I know all the lyrics from Iron Maiden, for instance, but I never sort of paid attention to the actual lyrics of Iron Maiden. I was doing a cover the other day about for The Trooper. With Silent Skies, but because I thought it's a sad song, and I never reflected on the sort of real meaning behind the words. I mean, it's about the guy dying on the field, right? So I wanted to bring out that vibe into the interpretation of Silent Skies. And that's what I'm doing nowadays, sort of trying to understand lyrics for what they are. Dancing in the Dark with Bruce Springsteen, for instance. It's a really sad song, but he put it into the context of being an up-tempo song, you know, which is not the point of the lyrics.
But I guess it's like they're trying to get them on board, like, you know, wrap up the dog's medicine in a ball of cheese. That's a terrible metaphor, but
I was like, I don't know what you.
No idea. That was weird. Like,
that was great.
It's really ridiculous. I'm not gonna lie. Now I bet you've already covered some of these artists that would appear it, but we've got like an every show question, which is, who would be your musical Mount Rushmore? Like, who would be the faces carved into the stone? And I want to get them built. because there's been some very interesting answers, and I think it will be quite a monument. My dream is to get Dolly Parton to build it, maybe in Dollywood or in a nearby field. I feel like she'd get on board. It's a long shot.
So how many phases are it? 4?
4, yeah.
David Gilmour. Well, I'm repeating myself here.
I know. I was going to say we probably already.
It's gonna be David Gilmour, Joey Tempest, Mark Knopfler, and Bruce Springsteen. That would be cool.
You're a Bruce Springsteen guy.
I became that now when I listened to Born in the USA and understood that it's a sad album rather than like a glorious.
Yeah.
The Born in the USA song, people sort of misinterpret that, especially here in Sweden, where it's like, fuck, I want to live in the US. It's like, okay, you sort of didn't listen at all.
It's such an interesting thing to create something that people have such dramatically different feelings to. Yeah,
but that's also the genius behind it, I think.
Yeah. What do you think? Has there been a particular record that you found was quite divisive, like people interpret it very dramatically differently? I mean, I don't know how much feedback you get from the world, or whether you
from Evergrey music.
Yeah,
you mean? Monday Morning Apocalypse was an album that where we sort of also provoked a lot of metal fans by saying we have the same producer as Britney Spears, and that we honestly, that's what was our plan. We said from the beginning, let's see how pissed off people will be by us just writing this.
Yeah,
but it was the truth. So and we also changed sound in a way, but I think that holds one of the darkest sort of songwriting.
Yeah.
But people sort of dismissed it immediately because he said Britney Spears. I can't listen to this shit, So, that album very much so. But it also brought in a lot of new fans into Evergrey. So for us, it's like for the hardcore fans that hated that album in the beginning, without listening to it. They also didn't realize that brought Evergrey to another level, but they thought that we declined, So in their minds, that was the shit album when they went down and everything was piss, But the
distortion of it all is kind of interesting. Yeah, I mean, that's a kind of obvious thing, the way we all experience things. But so be it. How are you a devout music fan? Would you consider yourself a fan as well as like and also, on that note, you talked about like listening to new music on tour and stuff. Are there any artists of recent times that kind of really went whoa?
I'm a huge music fan. Really nerdy, but I don't have any time to listen to music anymore because, which is sad. As I said before, it's just sad. But yes, I am. And I'm a very nerdy one when it comes to discussing details about this and that, and and we all are in Evergrey. We're extremely, extremely nerdy. I guess everybody is who's in a band. I think.
What do you bond over? What do you bond over most? What do you bond over most deeply?
It depends who I'm talking to.
Yeah.
With Jonas, the drummer, it's the production. It's we're super production nerds talking about like hertz and bass levels, and it's like and with Rickard, the keyboard player, it's a lot about the songwriting, the actual what is a great song. And with Johan, the bass player, you can discuss pretty much everything. He has a good grasp of all of it. And with Henrik, it's guitar playing. End of story.
Well, that's probably right. I mean, that's probably how it should be in the grand scheme of things. Like, were there how did you start writing? I guess. I mean, I know in Sweden you learn English very young, right? And that's kind of a part. Did you write in Swedish at all, or did you?
No.
English music, English,
Yeah, and also, I mean, it is the language of rock and roll.
It is.
So I mean, it's for me, and I remember it was quite frustrating since I didn't have the vocabulary at all. I had friends whose mom was an American, so I had that going for me at least, because she was also always speaking to us in English. But outside of that, I found it frustrating to not be able to express myself as well as I was sort of doing.
Yeah.
I mean, I was also young, so at that time,
Yeah.
I probably didn't have a great vocabulary when it came to Swedish either. But you know, it's like, yeah. But what was the question? When I started writing, I think I wrote my first song when I was 13.
Yeah. Did you? Was
Yeah.
it like? Was it bullying driven? Like, was that something you went home and like went, "This is my what?" Yeah. Like, what was the kind? Was there a big catalyst and you like finished something and you're like, yes.
No. It was like, it was just riffing, and we played on acoustic guitars. Me and the then guitar player that was the first guitar player in Evergrey actually.
Awesome.
And we started playing, and we got this TV show gig after our first gig in school. We got a TV show gig, playing guitars in TV, and it was like horrible. But we got a fee, and they got picked up by a limousine, and we thought that wasn't that hard. We made it, and yeah.
The only way is up. But you know, as you said, I mean, so many, you know, the whole concept of success, and you know, so many musicians who are viewed as successful go have a big moment, and then it's that. Whereas building that fan base over time is a really beautiful thing. You know, it's
I mean, it's ridiculous. I mean, I'm doing the same thing now that I did almost 30 years ago now.
Yeah.
And with the same eagerness, with the same hunger, with the same, you know, I want to make a better song. That's my only drive, and it's amazing. I'm so grateful for being a musician, finding music when I was young. You know.
Yeah. Well, a lot of people never find it, and that's, you know, that's a beautiful thing. I think that's a nice note to end on. I think that's quite powerful. I think that's, yes. Here's to music. Here's to you discovering music. It's exciting. All your vivid projects are active and being fed, which is kind of beautiful. And
yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah.
So grateful.
Awesome. Well, thanks for watching, everyone. This is a Revolver Fan First podcast. Tom Englund of Evergrey. Good times.